Hey mamas, welcome to Breastfeeding Relief with Bethany. We share incredible stories, tips, and breastfeeding ideas to help on your journey. I'm your host, Bethany Laverne, a lactation consultant and speech therapist who helps mamas with breastfeeding. Not all breastfeeding stories are the same, and we dive into those topics. Good morning, Amanda. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Bethany. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself and how many kiddos you have?
Yeah, my name is Amanda Schenkenberger. I'm a homeschool coach, and I have 4 boys between the ages of 3 and 10. I got to nurse all of them. It was initially a rough experience, then a really, really great experience. And I just loved the intimate connection that I got to have with each of them. There's nothing quite like nursing your baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about how your journey started off so rough?
Yeah. So, a little bit, maybe it's TMI right off the bat.
No, that's okay.
Never touched my body. Like touching my breasts was so foreign to me. I had been married 5 years, and I have some sexual trauma in my past. So I never felt comfortable touching my breasts, and my nipples are super sensitive. And so I remember I had all my babies at a birthing center with midwives, and my first was supposed to be in the water, but I had ended up having him on the birthing stool, it's just a giant horseshoe shaped thing, element of torture, but it gets babies out, which is great. And I remember sitting in the bed, and I'm like, they're like, okay, try nursing it. I'm like, and trying to hold him, and I don't even know what to do with my boob. And it was so awkward and uncomfortable. And then of course, I'm a high milk producer, which is such a blessing, but I'm engorged and my nipples are everything feels like it's on fire. And trying to get my baby to nurse, he really struggled to latch. And then because I was such a high producer, my milk would squirt everywhere. And so the other thing was my nipples didn't pop out. They didn't naturally pop out. So I had to put on a nipple shield to train them to pop out. And so trying to get on, so I feel awkward about my breasts. And then I'm squirting milk everywhere, trying to put on this nipple shield, but I can't get it to suction because I'm squirting milk everywhere. Of course, my baby is crying, because they're hungry.
Yeah.
Nursing induced a lot of anxiety for me. And not just because, my baby's crying and I want to feed him, but because I didn't know, I wasn't comfortable with my own body. And so you know how it goes with newborns. He wanted to eat every 45 minutes.
Sure. Yep.
And so for me, it was a really rough start because it felt like I almost had an anxiety attack every 45 minutes because for those first 2 weeks, while my nipples trained to pop out, to get on the nursing shield while the milk squirted everywhere. And it was really hard. The first go around was really challenging. And I don't know if I've ever dealt with anything quite like that, mental health wise.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And that's something mamas need to know is that, especially after you have a baby, you have a lot of ups and downs and your emotions are everywhere. I know one point I was sitting on the couch and all of a sudden I just start crying and my husband's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I have no idea why I'm crying."
I had that moment too. We were walking out of the birthing center. I'm like, they're sending me home with this thing.
Right. I actually did too. Yeah. And so my in-laws were there too. And my mother-in-law was like, "It'll be okay, honey. We're going home with you." And I was like, "No, I'm not crying because I'm worried about taking this baby home." I never thought I was going to have this experience because we had gone through IVF and lost a few babies. And so I finally got to that point that I was like, this is actually happening. I have the baby and we're going home. This is real. Yeah. So it was great. But yeah, so mamas, you should know we're going to have a lot of feelings after this baby gets here.
Lots of feelings, lots of
all
tears.
the feelings.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm. It does go. Yeah. Yeah. Cry those tears. It'll be fine.
Mhm.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit, I guess, about how you got past that anxiety? Because I believe you said you nursed for a year. And so I would feel like if you were having anxiety and a panic attack every 45 minutes, I feel like I would just be like, I'm done. I'm going to switch to formula. I can't have this panic attack.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was really a matter of resolve that I knew this is what I wanted for my baby.
Mhm.
And I think the anxiety could have been lessened had I asked for help, but I didn't
Sure.
quite understand what I was going through.
Mhm.
When he came out, my first guy, my tailbone was bruised. And so
Mhm.
like I had to sit on a donut for a while. And so
Mhm.
I was experiencing a lot of different emotions and new pain, and I didn't quite know what I needed in the moment.
Mhm.
And had I just been like, I think I'm like losing it to my midwife, and she could tell like that something was wrong. And so she even prompted me. She's like, how can I support you? And I'm like,
Mhm.
I think I'm okay. But after the once my nipples started like popping on their own,
Mhm.
and he could latch without the nipple shield,
Mhm.
that's when things started going down, because then, I can kind of sleepily nurse and like, or, like doze or
Mhm.
whatever. I didn't have to put the shield on. So after about 2 weeks, when my nipples started doing that on their own, the anxiety did go down. But it was really a matter of, I'm like, I don't want to do formula for my baby. I know what like the best thing for them is my milk. And since I was such a super producer, it might have been a different story if I
Mhm.
struggled with production, but I just
Mhm.
didn't. And so it felt like I'd been given this blessing, and working through this anxiety was like, I'm just going to do it because this is what's best for my baby.
Mhm.
So it was really a matter of mental resolve.
Mhm. No, that's amazing. Yeah. So, and, I just want to say the mamas, it's okay to reach out. And I know I personally went to a lactation group. And that was amazing for me. If you guys can reach out and find other mamas going through the same things to just share and not feel so alone.
Yeah.
That helped me the most. When you say like, this happened to me, and they're like, oh, that's called the 4-month sleep regression. And you're like, oh, that's what we're going through. It'll be okay. We're going to get through it, and so it was nice to have those other moms to connect with so you don't feel so alone.
Yeah. And I didn't have that. I'm
Okay.
sure it was probably available to me, but I
Mhm.
just didn't know about it.
Sure.
I was the first of like all my friends to have babies.
Okay.
And so I felt like I didn't really have anybody to lean on. Like my
Mhm.
mom, like bottle fed me. And I didn't really know anybody else with babies. And
Sure.
so
Mhm.
it did feel like a very lonely experience.
Mhm.
But I do remember, like, once we got it down, probably at like week 4, like we were in a rhythm. It wasn't like causing me any anxiety anymore. I remember sitting in the birthing center, like just with my midwife, and we were just like quiet, and he was just like nursing, and I was just like smiling. I was like, look, we're actually doing it, and like
Yeah.
she was like sweetly just like, okay, like affirming me with her eyes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
being so kind,
Mhm.
and just giving me space to enjoy it. But it was so we did get there. We
Mhm.
did get
Good.
there.
Good.
Um, yeah. So, but one of the things for me is that I brought all of those anxious feelings into my second birth.
Okay.
And I remember talking to my midwife, who I had the same midwife, and I said, I'm really nervous about nursing.
Mhm.
And she was like, well, why are you nervous? I said, it was such a hard time the first time, and the nipple shield, and explained basically everything I just
Mhm.
shared with you. And she said, gave me this advice. She's like, why are you bringing past
Mhm.
experiences into a future you don't know anything about?
Sure.
And she's like, it's not going to be the same way. Like,
Mhm.
there's so much about having your second baby
Mhm.
makes things just so much easier. And my second as soon as I had him, we latched right away. My nipples remembered how to pop out. Like I had trained my body and already gone through that.
Right.
And so nursing the second, third, and fourth time around, really was a much better experience overall, because I was finally comfortable with my body and my breasts and my nipples, and like to be able to like hold myself and do all, like, know the position. And my nipples popped out automatically on their own. And it really did make such a difference.
Awesome. What was one of your favorite breastfeeding products you used?
So I loved, well, can I say two actually?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So one is nipple butter, and I think it's by Earth Mama.
Okay.
That one, like I said before, I had very sensitive nipples. And so I just had to be careful, like what I put on, and then obviously be careful what, goes into baby's mouth. So I know that was a really, like a safe product. And it did, like, it helped my nipples a lot. The other thing is cabbage.
Okay.
So if you are engorged and your nipples are in pain, you get cabbage, like green leaf, and then you break it up and you put it on your breasts. It reduces inflammation so well. There's something about the enzymes, like cold cabbage, of course, the cold helps, but there's some kind of enzyme in the cabbage that helps reduce the inflammation even more. And so I have pictures of me on the couch with my third, because I didn't know this until my third. And I've got cabbage leaves. I look like Ariel, but very unpleasant looking Ariel, like postpartum Ariel. She's given birth, right?
Yeah.
She's not her teen body Ariel anymore. And so, but that was actually something, it's inexpensive, and it was really, really helpful. I also, that birth was in the middle of the summer too.
Okay.
So just like the coolness of the cabbage leaves was really relaxing. So cabbage leaves.
There you
That's
go.
my other
Awesome.
product.
That's awesome. What is one thing you wish you would have known about breastfeeding?
I did take like a birthing class, but I didn't take a breastfeeding class.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Yeah. Obviously, maybe there should be more education about breastfeeding in birthing classes.
Sure.
But I wish they would have somebody would have encouraged me, like, get comfortable with holding your boobs. Like, and it sounds weird, but like, cause I had to nurse like this.
Okay.
Like I was just always large and lots of milk, and just like the latch of my nipples are so sensitive, I couldn't just have them like latch and like not hold myself. I had to. And so I would have wished somebody would be like, just get used to touching your breasts if you're not used to touching them already. Just get comfortable with it, because you're going to have to do it a lot.
Yeah.
In showers. Give yourself time for hot showers, like if you're a high producer, because I would just spend hours, well, not every day, but hours a week in the shower in those first few, maybe the first month, first few weeks, just like expressing, because I would get, I get really close to having mastitis.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's great advice. I just talked with someone else again the other day, and we were talking as both lactation consultants that before you have your baby, you should really know how to hand express your milk in case you ever get in a situation that you forgot your pump with you. You travel somewhere, you go out to dinner somewhere, and you're engorged, and you're like, I just need to release a little bit of this milk, and I have nothing else with me. So that is a tip I will give, that you should learn how to do that before you have your baby, so you're comfortable, so you aren't stressed in the moment and you're like, I forget how to do this. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Yeah. And especially it's easy in the shower because it's warm, you're relaxed, and you don't have to catch it in a cup or something, or worry about getting yourself wet. Yeah.
A mess everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on how fast your milk comes out, which mine's like a fire hose.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I told a friend who had a baby last summer, I said, now sometimes if you get in the shower, if you're really engorged, I was like, your milk might hit the back of the shower stall. And she goes, no, it won't. 2 weeks later, she calls me, you will not guess what just happened. I was like, did your milk hit the back of the shower? And she goes, yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, things we don't talk about, we've kept this quiet. And so that's one reason I've decided to start this podcast, is to help moms on their journey learn these tips and different things that are going to happen that nobody talks about. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time and your tips. Can you let everyone know how they can connect with you?
Sure. So you can follow me on Instagram at Homeschool Coaching Mama. I'm very on the crunchy side of things, holistically minded. I'm not ashamed about it. And if you are interested in homeschooling, like I said, I have 4 boys. I remember teaching my 4-year-old how to read while nursing my newborn and keeping my 2-year-old busy. Like, I get it. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And I was still working at that time. I don't suggest that. However, I know that it can be a lot, especially when you're nursing an infant, and it is doable. And I've learned a lot of lessons, and I would love to share those with you. So if you're interested in homeschooling and you want to connect with me, I have a link that you guys could schedule a quick call with me, and we could just talk about your needs. And that is bit.ly/connect-call-15min. bit.ly/connect-call-15min. And I know you're a busy mom, so it's only going to be 15 minutes. And just so I can hear what your needs are, and we can go from there to help you either move forward with homeschooling, or if you were wanting to, if you're homeschooling already and you're like, I need some help because I'm about to have a baby.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes so it's easy for people to find you. So thanks again so much for your time today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening in. If you loved this episode, it would mean so much if you would share it with another mama or post on social media and tag me. I want to personally thank you for wanting to help other mamas. You got this. I'm rooting for your breastfeeding journey.